It was morning. The first rays of the sun had bathed the entire city in a golden hue. Everything appeared perfectly normal, yet no one had any inkling that a young man's life was about to change completely in a matter of minutes. As usual, the crowded metro was making its way toward the next station, and it was so packed inside that people were struggling even to remain standing. Amidst this throng stood an ordinary-looking young man. Fatigue was clearly visible on his face, as if he hadn't had a proper rest in days. Suddenly, the color drained from his face. He clutched his chest and whispered, I'm dying." His condition was deteriorating by the second, yet the metro sped on. Just then, an announcement came over the speakers. "This station is Yawido. Doors will open on the left." As the train came to a halt, passengers hurriedly began to disembark. Everyone was in a rush to reach their destination. The crowd jostled and pushed, and no one noticed the young man's worsening condition. But little did anyone know that this very moment was destined to become the biggest turning point of his life. The crowd was somehow making its way out of the metro. Suddenly, the young man spotted an empty seat amidst the crowd. He said to himself, "In such a crowd, how can a seat be empty?" He found it quite strange. However, he was feeling so unwell that instead of overthinking it, he decided to go and sit in that seat immediately. As soon as he sat down, a look of relief became clearly visible on his face. Taking a deep breath, he said to himself, "Finally, luck is on my side today. Perhaps this is what true happiness feels like." But he had absolutely no idea that this was no ordinary seat. It was then that the story revealed the young man's true identity for the first time. His name was Manager Oh Hyun-min. Age 33 years, he had been a top performer in his studies since his school days. Through hard work and dedication, he had secured a managerial position at a prestigious company. From the outside, his life appeared perfect. A good job, a brilliant career, and the image of success in the eyes of others. But the reality was quite different. He did not know that this mysterious seat he had found on the metro today was about to steer his entire life in a direction he had never even imagined. Now, the story takes us into Oh Hyun-min's past. He was a manager at a major company where new challenges awaited him every day. Whenever a project stalled, the entire team would look toward their senior executives with hopeful eyes. But every time, they received the same answer: "Give this task to Oh Hyun-min." Everyone in the company believed that if even an impossible project could succeed, it would only be because of Oh Hyun-min. After all, throughout the office, he was known as the man who could accomplish even the seemingly impossible. Gradually, he acquired a reputation. If a task required success, Oh Hyun-min was the only one who could shoulder the responsibility. Yet no one ever stopped to consider the immense pressure mounting on him as he repeatedly turned the impossible into the possible. Working ceaselessly day and night, attending countless meetings, and facing never-ending deadlines had turned his life into that of a machine. He found himself thinking, "Yes, I am Oh Hyun-min." But this time his body was beginning to give way. His breathing grew rapid, darkness clouded his vision, and he realized he had taken on a burden far exceeding his limits. Suddenly, everything before his eyes began to blur. Startled, he muttered, Did I fall asleep?" Little did he know that what was about to happen next was not part of a dream, but was destined to become the most mysterious turning point of his life. When Oh Hyun-min opened his eyes again, the first thought that crossed his mind was, "No, did I miss my stop?" He looked around frantically. Just moments ago, he had been in a crowded subway, but now the scene before him had completely changed. He couldn't tell if he had truly woken up, or if he was still having some bizarre dream. As Oh Hyun-min looked up, he was struck dumb with shock. Towering cliffs surrounded him on all sides, and only a small patch of sky was visible overhead. He was no longer on the subway. Instead, he was sitting on a stone chair in the middle of a deep, mysterious canyon. His mind went completely numb. Where on earth am I? Just as he was trying to make sense of his situation, a terrifying scream echoed through the area. He glanced ahead, and the sight that met his eyes made his blood run cold. Dozens of hideous green monsters brandishing weapons were charging straight toward him from the bottom of the stairs. Their red eyes betrayed only one thing: a thirst for blood. His hands began to tremble, his breathing quickened, and he started backing away in a panic. He couldn't tell if this was a dream or if he had truly ended up in another world. But one thing was crystal clear: if he didn't act within the next few seconds, those monsters would tear him apart. Oh Hyun-min sank to his knees, clutching his head in pain. A single question kept swirling in his mind: "Am I really dead?" After a moment of reflection, he answered himself, "It seems I either died from overwork or I've completely lost my mind." He couldn't believe that the life of an ordinary office worker would suddenly end in such a terrifying place. But then, those terrifying screams began to echo from all directions once again. He looked up to see dozens of goblins surrounding him. Escaping from their midst was now nearly impossible. The color drained from Oh Hyun-min's face. His throat was parched. His body trembled with fear, and his mind had gone completely numb. He realized that this was no dream. This was reality. And if he didn't find a way out right now, these ferocious goblins would devour him alive the very next moment. Oh Hyunmin composed himself and began to observe the creatures closely. Green skin, long pointed ears, and their faces were terrifying enough to make any human soul tremble. After staring at them for a few moments, his anxiety deepened. He spoke in a low voice, "Yes, there is no doubt. These really are goblins." Memories of stories he had read and video games he had played in his childhood came flooding back. They looked exactly the same green skin and the same ferocious gaze. Oh Hyunmin was now absolutely certain that the creatures standing before him were the very same goblins he had always seen in movies, anime, and video games, but the very next moment, something happened that left him utterly stunned. All the goblins standing before him suddenly dropped to their knees and shouted in unison, "Our master has arrived! Hail to our lord!" The entire cave echoed with their voices. Oh Hyunmin's eyes went wide with shock. Because these goblins weren't just screaming, they were speaking clear, fluent Korean just like humans. His mind went numb. He muttered to himself, "Wait, what? Why are they talking about me?" He couldn't fathom why they were all calling him their master. Was this some huge misunderstanding? Or did he possess an identity in this mysterious world that even he was unaware of? Just then, the crowd of goblins began to slowly advance toward him. And with every step they took, Oh Hyunmin's heart pounded faster and faster. The very next moment, a small goblin from the horde suddenly dashed rapidly toward Oh Hyunmin. Oh Hyunmin's heart began to pound. He felt as though the small monster was about to attack him, but just as the goblin reached right in front of him, the small goblin slowly approached Oh Hyunmin and stopped in front of him. But instead of attacking, it held out a glowing red fruit with both hands and spoke in an innocent voice, "My master, please, eat this." Oh Hyunmin was left completely stunned for a moment. He gently took the fruit in his hand and examined it closely. He wondered to himself, what on earth is this? He had never seen a fruit like this in his entire life. A faint red glow emanated from the fruit's surface, as if a mysterious power lay hidden within. The longer he gazed at it, the more he realized that this was no ordinary fruit. He could feel a faint surge of energy coursing through his hands. Just then, the other goblins standing nearby began looking at him with excitement. There was no fear in their eyes, and instead, hope and respect were clearly visible. It seemed as though they were eagerly waiting for their master to take the first bite of that mysterious fruit. And now only one question echoed in Oh Hyunmin's mind. If I eat this fruit, what exactly will happen to me? The small goblin was still standing there, holding out that mysterious fruit with both hands. His innocent eyes held only one plea. "My master, please accept this." Oh Hyunmin glanced at the fruit once more, then looked at the entire Goblin Army standing before him. Every gaze was fixed upon him. He thought to himself, if I don't eat this fruit, they'll think I've insulted their gift. And if that happened, who knew if they might suddenly change their attitude and attack him? He didn't have many options at the moment. On one side, the mysterious fruit, and on the other, hundreds of goblins watching his every move. Oh Hyunmin took a deep breath. He grasped the fruit firmly in his hand. Now the decision was his alone. Would he trust this unknown fruit, or refuse to eat it out of fear and perhaps turn all those goblins into his enemies? Then he thought to himself, it is possible that this might be the last meal of my life. Then he cast aside all his hesitation. Come what may. With that, he took a large bite of the fruit. But the moment the fruit entered his mouth, his eyes suddenly widened. He was so astonished that he couldn't utter a word for a few seconds. Meanwhile, all the goblins held their breath, trying to read the expression on his face. They were afraid that their master might not like the fruit they had offered. Then, suddenly, a faint smile appeared on Oh Hyunmin's face. He exclaimed in amazement, How can this be so delicious? I have never tasted a fruit this delicious in my entire life. Upon hearing his words, all the goblins rejoiced. Relief and pride were clearly visible on their faces. After all, their master had accepted their first gift. But Oh Hyunmin did not yet realize that he hadn't merely eaten a fruit. Unknowingly, he had consumed the very thing that would change his destiny. As soon as Oh Hyunmin swallowed the first bite of the fruit, the entire cave suddenly erupted with cheers of joy. Long live our master! Long live the master! Goblins began jumping and celebrating as if a grand festival had just begun. Oh Hyunmin looked at them in astonishment and muttered, Wait, I've only taken a single bite. But the very next moment, a strange heat began to course through his entire body. He doubled over in pain and clutched his head. He felt as though something inside his body was changing. Panicked, he thought, no. Could this be because of that fruit? Before he could even make sense of it, suddenly, a transparent screen made of blue light appeared before his eyes. Oh Hyunmin's breath hitched. The screen displayed his full details: name Oh Hyunmin, title Master, territory Red Box Valley, population 47, and most shocking of all, A status window had opened before him, the kind he had previously only ever seen in video games. In that moment, Oh Hyunmin realized perhaps he hadn't simply arrived in another world, but had actually become part of a living game himself. Oh Hyunmin stared at the glowing blue screen. He blurted out instinctively, "What exactly is this? A hologram." He reached out trying to touch the screen, but it remained floating in mid-air as if visible only to him. He began to read the information displayed on it carefully. Just then, his eyes fell upon a line of red text at the bottom. Only 4 days, 3 hours, and 58 minutes remain until the territory war begins. His heart skipped a beat. He muttered in a panic, "Why, is this timer running? And what exactly is a territory war?" He had never heard that term before. He was still grappling with these questions when suddenly, new words began to appear on the screen on their own. "Your question is being answered." Oh Hyunmin's eyes widened. He looked around nervously. Who? Who is talking to me?" But there was no one there. Only that mysterious screen, which had started answering his questions. In that moment, he realized this was no ordinary system. It was listening to his every question and answering them just like a living intelligence. Oh Hyunmin was still staring at that mysterious screen. Just then, a new word flashed upon it, wiki. He repeated it in astonishment. Wiki! The very next moment, he realized that the system was actually answering his questions. The screen stated that if he wished, he could access information about anything in this world with the help of wiki. But Oh Hyunmin shook his head and said to himself, "No, let's put that aside for now. First, I need to know, where exactly am I?" He immediately asked that very question. A few seconds later, the screen flashed again. "Wiki will answer." Then the reply appeared, "This place is the demon realm." Upon reading this, the color drained from Oh Hyunmin's face. What? The demon realm? His heart began to pound wildly. He couldn't fathom how an ordinary office worker had ended up in the world of demons. In a state of panic, he asked his next question, "Then how did I get here?" But the answer the system gave this time unsettled him even more. "Your current level is too low. Therefore, your exact location and the full details regarding it cannot be revealed at this time." Oh Hyunmin fell completely silent for a few moments. For the first time, he realized merely surviving in this world wouldn't be enough. If he wanted to know the truth, he would first have to make himself much more powerful. Oh Hyunmin pinched his cheek hard. The pain was absolutely real. He murmured softly, "No, this definitely isn't a dream." He sat in silence for a few moments, trying to calm his thoughts. Then he took a deep breath and said to himself, "All right. First, I need to understand the whole situation." He then asked the mysterious system, "If I want to go back to my own world, do I have to win the territory war?" A moment later, a single word appeared on the screen. "Correct." Upon receiving this answer, Oh Hyunmin's expression turned serious. The path ahead was clear now. If he wanted to return home, he had to play by the rules of this strange world. Just then, his gaze fell upon the goblins standing before him. They were all looking at him quietly. The system's words suddenly echoed in his mind. All of them are under your command. Oh Hyunmin looked at the crowd of goblins in astonishment. For the first time, he realized that these monsters were not his enemies, but his first subjects. And now, the responsibility for them rested on his shoulders as well. Oh Hyunmin took a close look at the goblins for the first time. Their gaunt bodies, sunken eyes, and frail faces clearly revealed that they had been starving for a long time. He muttered softly, "They look like victims of malnutrition?" He realized that if these were his subjects, their condition was dire. But then, another alarming question crossed his mind. He immediately called out to the system, "Wiki, if I lose this territory war, what happens?" Silence hung in the air for a few seconds. Then an answer appeared on the screen in red text. "There is a very high probability that you will die." Oh Hyunmin's breath hitched for a moment, but the screen didn't stop there. The next message was even more terrifying. "If you lose the territory war, your territory will be seized, your subjects will be wiped out, and you yourself will die." Then a final warning appeared. "Every lord who has lost a territory war to date has met their death." Upon reading this, Oh Hyunmin's face turned deathly pale. He let out a dry, hollow laugh, and then hanging his head, he simply said, "Unbelievable." After a moment of silence, only one word escaped his lips: "Damn." Now he understood it all too well. There was no reward for winning this game, but there was only one penalty for losing: death. Oh Hyunmin let out a long sigh and muttered with a wry smile, "Whether it's the real world or this place, trouble follows me everywhere." Memories of his days at the office came flooding back. The same story every day. No budget, not enough staff, And on top of that, a workload so heavy that reports had to be finished by morning no matter what. He had toiled day and night, yet all he got in return was stress and exhaustion. Now as he looked at this new world, he realized that the situation here wasn't any different. Here too, he had weak subjects, limited resources, and the looming deadline of a life-or-death territory war hanging over his head. He chuckled softly and said, "To be honest, this world feels just like my old job." Then, turning serious, he called out to the system, "Wiki, I have one last question." Gazing at the screen, he asked, "If I keep developing my territory and continue raising my territory level, can I win this territory war?" He held his breath, for the answer to this question would determine his entire destiny. Oh Hyunmin took a deep breath. Only one question remained in his eyes now. He spoke softly. Can I ever go back home?" Silence hung in the air for a few moments. Then the system screen lit up. "Vicky will answer." The very next second, a single word appeared on the screen. "Possible?" Upon reading this, a faint glimmer of hope appeared on Oh Hyun-min's face for the first time. But that joy was short-lived, because right beneath it, another message appeared. In history, only one person has ever managed to return to their own world after winning the first territory war. Oh Hyun-min remained silent for a moment, then he slowly bowed his head. That is enough for now. He didn't have all the answers yet. But he had certainly found a reason to move forward. He slowly rose to his feet. He looked out at the unfamiliar valley stretching before him and at his goblin kin. Then he said to himself, "So, I have only 4 days. 4 days to survive in this strange and unknown world and to prepare to win the first territory war." He knew, if he succeeded, perhaps one day he could return home. But if he made even a single mistake, his story would end forever in this mysterious world. Oh Hyun-min took a few steps forward and gazed at his subjects. Dozens of goblins stood before him, looking at him with eyes full of hope. He said to himself, "What exactly will this territory war be like? I have no idea yet. But one thing is certain." He took a deep breath. "I have only 4 days left." 4 days. In such a short time, he had to understand this entire place, prepare his subjects, and face a battle that meant certain death. Then he adjusted his tie and reminded himself of who he was. "I am Oh Hyun-min, age 33. The world's youngest manager who achieved this position through sheer hard work. He had handled countless impossible situations back at the office, and today, the greatest challenge of his life stood before him. He clenched his fist tightly and spoke in a firm voice, "I have no intention of dying here." Then, looking at all the goblins standing before him, he raised his voice and declared, "Listen, from now on, we will transform this place together. And at any cost, we will win this territory war." A faint smile suddenly appeared on Oh Hyun-min's face. Looking at his entire goblin clan, he spoke, "I have something important to tell you." Then he said with confidence, "People say that working overtime kills a person, but my life has taught me that working overtime can also work miracles." Silence fell over the area for a few moments. The goblins began looking at one another. They couldn't quite grasp what their new master was trying to say, but there was no longer any fear in Oh Hyun-min's eyes. All that could be seen was confidence and a fierce determination to win. He straightened his tie, took a step forward, and announced in a loud voice, "Starting tonight, we are all going to work overtime." His voice echoed throughout the valley. Oh Hyun-min cast his gaze around. Surrounded by towering cliffs, the valley looked like nothing less than a natural fortress. He mused to himself, if I'm not mistaken, there's only one entrance to this valley." His manager's instincts had kicked in once again. He began to view everything through the eyes of an enemy. Then he asked the system, "If someone were to attack our territory, which route would they take to get in?" A moment later, the screen lit up, but as always, he received the same reply. "Your level is insufficient for this information." Oh Hyun-min clutched his head in frustration. Then he grumbled, "Give me a break. Level too low for every single question." He took a deep breath and composed himself. "All right, if the system won't help, we'll have to use our own wits." He then looked toward the entire Goblin Army and spoke in a loud, commanding voice, "Everyone, listen up!" At the sound of his voice, all the goblins snapped to attention and turned their gaze toward him. Now, Oh Hyun-min was about to begin the very first war preparation meeting of his life. Oh Hyun-min led everyone to the narrow pass and carefully examined the towering cliffs on either side. Then, turning to his subjects, he spoke in a firm voice, "We will defend this pass, even if it costs us our lives." Hearing this, the goblins looked at one another. They couldn't quite grasp what plan their new master was devising, but a complete strategy was already taking shape in Oh Hyun-min's mind. Crouching down and sketching a map on the ground, he said, "From now on, everyone will have an assigned task. He pointed to 10 of the goblins standing before him. "You 10, go ahead, find the largest boulders you can and roll them back here." The goblins were initially taken aback. It was likely the first time they had been ordered to gather stones instead of fighting. One goblin just stood there staring at him. Oh Hyunmin immediately shouted, "If I'm speaking to you, don't just stand there. Get to work right away." The very next moment, all the goblins rushed off together. For the first time, they had found a leader who devised a plan instead of panicking. Oh Hyunmin watched them go and thought to himself, they may lack raw combat strength, but if utilized correctly, they could become our greatest asset. Then, looking at the remaining goblins, he issued his next order in a loud voice. "As for the rest of you, there is work for you too." Only 4 days remained until the war began, and the first military preparations for Red Rock Valley had officially commenced. Oh Hyunmin laid out his plan without wasting a single second. Pointing toward the high cliff, he said, "Gather every stone you find it. Don't leave a single one behind. Collect them all and pile them up at the top of that hill." Upon receiving the order, several goblins immediately began climbing the rocky terrain without a word of protest. Some picked up large boulders, while others busied themselves transporting them to the summit. Then, Oh Hyunmin turned to the other team and said, "You lot, start digging a deep trench right in front of this entrance." Raising his hand, he commanded loudly, "Get to work!" And just like that, all the goblins threw themselves into the task in unison. Oh Hyunmin was amazed by what he saw. He thought to himself, it's incredible. Not a single one of them is asking questions. They're simply doing exactly what I say without any argument. But he didn't just stand there issuing orders. He too knelt on the ground and began digging with his bare hands. He knew full well if the leader didn't put in the hard work himself, his team wouldn't give it their all either. Time slowly ticked by. Before long, evening fell and the darkness of night blanketed Red Rock Valley. Yet the work didn't stop. A massive pile of stones began to form atop the cliffs. Down below, the trench near the entrance grew deeper, and sharpened wooden spears were driven into the ground around it. For the territory war taking place in 4 days, Oh Hyunmin's first line of defense was finally beginning to take shape.